We Are Islamic Republic, Part 67. The League was now committed to independent Muslim state. Gandhi claimed that he was baffled by Muslim League's resolution. He refused to accept that Hindus and Muslims had to be so at odds that they could not live together in an independent India. Quaid-e-Azam was the most important Muslim leader. Allama Muhammad Iqbal was the first important figure to suggest a separate state. Quaid-e-Azam was influenced and inspired by Iqbal. Chaudhry Rahmat Ali gave a separate state the name of Pakistan. Support for a separate state was known as Pakistan Movement. In 1940, the Quaid-e-Azam was committed to a separate state. At the time of Lahore Resolution, Britain was at war with Germany. World War II was to have an important effect on the movement for Indian independence. Hindu-dominated Congress became increasingly frustrated by the Muslim League's support for partition. As independence for India loomed near, so did Hindu-Muslim friction increase. The situation was developing where, in order to satisfy some demands and settle some problems, further division and anxieties were going to be created, which would prove seemingly impossible to resolve. Thanks to the vision of Iqbal and the leadership of Jinnah, Muslims were more and more convinced that a separate Pakistan was essential. I can explain it over here, what has actually happened. Well, Muslims have been the ruler of this land, and they have been the rulers for the centuries. And what they made the society livable for everyone. Hindus were living there, Muslims were living there, all the different communities were living there, all the different religions were living there. And no one was Tang Ahmad Bajang Ahmad. No one was forced to get out of it. It were the forces, the Hindu forces and the colonial forces of Britain, who had actually forced Hindus, who had actually forced Muslims to be Tang Ahmad and Bajang Ahmad and claim an independent state. Had they run the state the way states are run, there would have been no problem at all. In 1935, when the Constitution was promulgated, the elections were called, and with 1937, when the congressional ministries took the oath, it was a great occasion for the congressional leaders to let the Muslims engage into the political system. But that's what they didn't do. Of course, Muslim League had lost the elections. When Muslim League had lost the elections, forget about Muslim League, but the Muslims are there. The Muslims have won on different platforms. The congressional leaders should have engaged them into the politics, but they didn't. What they did, they tried their best to disengage Muslims from the nationhood, from the affairs of the politics, from the affairs of the diplomacy, from the affairs of the government, from the affairs of the representation. These idiots, congressional leaders, were in fact discriminating against Muslims, bringing in all the legislation against Muslims. They were, in a way, suppressing Muslims, waging a war against Muslims, waging a war against the identity of the Muslims. In such a situation, what should have they done? Talk about the Uttar Pradesh situation. Congress could not win even a single seat in Uttar Pradesh, the Muslim seat. They have always called that we represent the Muslims of India as well. We represent all the different religions of India, but they could not win a single seat from Uttar Pradesh for the Muslim seats. Now the Muslims were elected. Had they allowed them to become a part of their government, Muslims would have found a representation for themselves within Congress, within those ministries. But what they have found, they have given it a very strange compulsion that first you leave your party, become a part of Indian National Congress, and only then you would allow it. That was a nonsense idea.